Hi, good evening, friends. I'm still at work, so it took me a while before I could get on this podcast tonight. But it's a pleasure to be here, and I actually, this is more or less like I want to put my personal self out this night on this episode. During the course of the week, I made a post on my Facebook timeline, and I was talking about I think the 5 stages of marriage. And I think I made a post about a young lady who was 2 months in and was applauding the husband that he makes submission easy. And I was actually thinking that was an hilarious comment because I felt 2 months was too early to actually say that. Why? Because according to the different stages of marriage that I had read even before getting married, the first phase of marriage is the honeymoon stage where everything is all nice and rosy and there are no fights. It's just good. And then the second stage is either called the storming stage or the dissolution stage, or it's more or less like that's the conflict stage. That's the point where some of the things you thought you knew about your partner starts to unravel, and then you're asking yourself, do I really know this person? Sometimes, even for some Christians, it could be a point where you begin to ask yourself, am I sure that he's a Christian? Am I sure that she's a Christian? Am I sure that he or she is God's will for me? Then you begin to doubt and ask yourself questions like, hope I've not made a mistake. That's the disillusionment stage. And sincerely speaking, I have to be very honest. When we got to that stage as a couple, I was shocked. Like, I was way shocked out of my bone marrow. Like, I felt that we had both gotten enough preparation about marriage, and we had the knowledge, we had the love, we had this. So I definitely did not expect that level of, should I say, conflicts that we had just around the second year of our marriage. And one things I've learned so far really is that having the right knowledge doesn't prevent you from, experiencing something that you probably thought you wouldn't experience. Knowledge might be a buffer, but it doesn't stop it from happening. Now, a friend of mine commented on my post, and she was saying that that's not a reality, that even though, yes, they've had conflict, but never any kind of conflict that was so bad or so unmanageable or something that they would need a counselor, because Jesus is the one managing the relationship. And I took a pause, and then, because one thing I do when I read comments on social media, I tend to ask myself some questions first before I respond. And a lot of times in my responses, I am trying to view it from a personalized angle, like trying to walk in the person's shoes to understand what they are trying to say, as well as understand my own perspective and why it is conflicting with their own. So now when I heard her comments, what was in my mind was like, okay, does it mean that for Christian couples who experience terrible conflicts in their marriage, that Jesus is not in the marriage, or is not the one managing the marriage, or is not the Lord of that home? Or does it mean that, okay, the fact that very few Christian couples actually talk about conflict, like very few actually say that they don't have conflict. In fact, if you talk about it, like one of my other friends, Choma, was saying that when she told her pastor that they rarely fight or that they don't have conflicts, the pastor was shocked and was surprised. Like, he was looking at her like she had grown on. Well, I think there are a number of factors to this issue. I think it was Luke. It should be Luke. No, that's Mark. It's actually Mark 4. Mark 4:35 to 41 was talking about an experience the disciples had. Like they were on a boat, they were heading towards a particular destination, and then a storm started. But it looked like Jesus was sleeping, even though he was inside the boat. And so the disciples turned to him and asked him, Lord, do you not care that we perish? Why will you be sleeping at this particular time? And as I was ruminating on the Facebook thread and some of the comments, that was a verse that dropped on in my spirit. That the fact that you're experiencing a storm in your marriage right now does not actually mean that Jesus is not in the boat. But have you called on the Lord for intervention? Have you asked him to, take charge or speak a word to that storm? I think that passage actually reflects what some of us do when we get into conflict situations with our partners, with our spouse. We often try to resolve it with our human knowledge, with the things that we think we know, with probably the experience of what some other people have shared. We often forget the fact that in this particular boat that we are in, Jesus is in the boat. So we often forget to call his attention to what is happening. We often forget to ask him to intervene. Until the disciples asked Jesus, he didn't speak. He was just content, even while the storm raged. So if there's a storm raging in your life right now and you're a Christian, it's good to get your partner to a point where you both call on the Lord to get into the boat. Now, I'm not in any way trying to ask you to do this if there is abuse. If there is abuse, if there is something that is life endangering, it is actually time for you to take action. There is 1 Corinthians 5:11 says that you should not even eat with an abuser, with a sexually immoral person. So there are guidelines for handling abuse and maybe sexual immorality in marriage. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm talking about is the general conflicts, day-to-day issues, like maybe sometimes quarrel over money matters and budgeting issues, or sometimes even quarrel about work, about family time. There are a lot of things that can cause disagreements between couples. What is clear is that the Christian home, the peaceful Christian home, is not one where there are no conflicts at all. It's actually one where the conflicts are well managed and each partner is able to feel a sense of belonging regardless of the final outcome of the decisions they take as a couple. Nobody, as in the Christian marriage, it is not ideal for one partner to feel like they are being shortchanged, or they are the ones doing most of the sacrifice, or they are the ones that are actually carrying the most burden. It's to be an equal yoke, like equally yoked partners, two people who have similar, or should I say, compatible levels of strength and ability, who are equally yoked together for a common purpose, for a common destination. And so that's quite clear that for the Christian home, there is no allowance for individualism. Like you can't be selfish as one of the units of a Christian home if you're a husband, if you're a wife, you cannot be selfish. It has to be joint burden bearing. So when there is conflict, the compromise has to be on both sides. It cannot be that, okay, one person at every point in time is the one that always compromises. When you see some couples like that, where it's either the wife does not ever talk, she's just, yes, sir, whatever the man says, that is not also ideal. That's not the kind of pattern we're talking about. If it's the husband that has become the yes, ma, like the one that is always just agreeing with whatever his wife says, that's not also good enough. Both of the husband and the wife equally have things that they know better or they know more of. And when there is conflict, it's always good enough that both the husband and wife get to the Lord and ask him for his own inputs. Because some of the things that we quarrel or argue about are actually things that if we learned to listen to God, we would actually just do his will without any quarrels. Now, for my friend who says God is the one managing our boats or our marriage, that is very valid. For even those who have conflicts in marriage, it does not mean God is not the one managing your boats. It just means that you are not yet 100% fully yielded to him or giving over everything to him. So at this point in time, it's a challenge. It's actually like a wake-up call. If you're a Christian couple and you're experiencing conflict in your marriage, don't despair. Just call on the Lord and get the right counsel, because when there is a multitude of counsel, yes, it's progress, it's freedom. You have liberty to do the right thing, and you are safe when there is a multitude of counsel. So it's always good that when you're running through challenges that you're not able to understand, or both of you are not able to agree easily on the way forward, it's always good to get elderly, or should I say experts counsel, depending on your situation, depending on your scenario. For some people, it would be their elders that would serve as counselors for them. For some other people, it would be experts or qualified therapists or counselors that will serve as counsels for them. So as I close this night, I want to know, what are your thoughts? What do you think about conflict in marriage? Do you believe that the ideal Christian marriage is one in which there is absolutely no conflict, or there is little or no conflict, or the one that has quite a number of conflicts but is well managed? Share your thoughts, and if you have any questions too, I'll be glad to read them and take them or respond to them as the case may be. And ultimately, the kingdom marriage is the one in which both the husband and wife are jointly working together to advance the kingdom and to glorify God on earth. So if you look at your own marriage and find that you're still falling short of that, it's not a reason to throw in the towel or just give up. You can still work on improvements. There is room for improvements. And when there is room for improvement, it just means that you need to do more work. So I'll be closing this night because I can see from the time it's almost 15 minutes. I wish you a very beautiful new week ahead. You can see that my face looks a little bit tired. Yes, I've been on weekend duty. And I just want to say that as we continue doing that which we have been called to do, let's remain faithful and true. I think I hear Enoch and I have to go now. Do have a pleasant night and stay blessed. Bye.